What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Fight Like Hell podcast, episode 83. We're coming to you on a Friday on February 10th in the year 2023, just in case you're listening to us in 2137. That's a long time from now, but we think we're going to have some fans then, or an apocalypse happens and this podcast never existed. Either way, to my left, I have my heterosexual life mate, Austin. How are you?
Doing good, man. How are you?
And I'm doing good. And then below us, we have our guest, Mr. Tom Voss. Tom, how are you doing today? And could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure, doing well. No complaints over here. Again, my name is Tom Voss. I'm a Iraq War veteran, served United States Army active duty 2003 to 2006, and then did a deployment 04-05 to Mosul, Iraq, and served in Scout Sniper Platoon, and specifically I was in a Scout team, right? So doing reconnaissance and stuff like that. Coming back and transitioning from my time in service was a pretty big challenge. And I think, we find different ways to try to manage stress, right, in different ways. So I found that, being in nature immersion, hiking, trekking, is something that helped me out tremendously in reintegrating back into civilian life.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to getting into some stuff during the podcast when we go over your backstory. I actually have quite the surprise for you because you just kind of blew my mind a little bit with something. And I definitely say, listeners, listen to this podcast because Tom and I kind of have some history together, and Tom doesn't even know that yet. All right. So before we get into that surprise, let's get into our sponsors. And before we actually hit our first sponsors, one of the things that we started doing on our episodes now is we're promoting ourselves at the beginning. What we mean by that is the podcast. For those of you who love us and are listening to us around the world, we're heard in, I think, like 26 or 27 countries now. Please continue to like our podcast, share our podcast. We literally do this out of our own money. We don't take anything in. Our official sponsors, we help them out more than we're taking a compensation from it. So what we ask of you is if you like this podcast, share it with someone, especially after listening to Tom's story today or Anthony's from last week. We want you guys to share this episode and share their documentary, and let's get more people connected. That's our plug for ourselves. Now let's get into our official sponsors of the Fight Like Hell podcast. Our first official sponsor is Invicta Coffee Co. They're a veteran-owned coffee company out of Arizona. We have a good friend named Spencer who runs that company here in Arizona. He does a lot for mental health and PTSD for veterans. Some of his proceeds for his coffee sales goes to organizations that assist veterans. If you would like to save a little bit on some amazing coffee, please go over to his website and use the promo code Fight Like Hell, all one word, Fight Like Hell, and you will get a little bit off towards a good cause and some great coffee. Our next official sponsor of the podcast is PatriotCookies.co. They are a cookie company out of sunny Florida with our good friend Johnny B. Tack Fit over in Florida, running that company, blowing it up even more and more each weekend. It seems like he's got some other celebrity trying his amazing cookies. He's able to deliver, I think, anywhere in the continental U.S. I'm pretty sure he can do overseas too. But
I don't know how those cookies are going to hold up overseas, though.
maybe they will, maybe they won't. They're really good. He's got healthy options and options that'll help keep your waistline growing. If you would like to save a little bit, like 15% on some amazing cookies, head over to patriotcookies.co. Use the promo code Fight Like Hell, all one word, Fight Like Hell, and you will get 15% off. Those are our promotions.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, I felt a little winded there.
Yeah. So next we'll get into the normal stuff, which is weekend adventures. We'll start off with you, Tom. Did you do anything fun for your weekend or got any plans for this coming weekend?
I live in the base of the Los Padres National Forest, so I get to go hiking pretty regularly, and so that's what I usually try to do: get out in nature on the weekend. So that's my focus.
Okay. Are you gonna watch the Super Bowl? Are you a sports person?
I haven't been. I was raised in Wisconsin, so I was a Packers fan
Of course.
growing up.
Mhm.
But I haven't been paying too much attention over the last couple of years. But so I'll check it out, but probably highlights mostly.
Right. Okay. Okay. What about you, Rob? I mean, I know you had a super busy day today.
I'm trying to think how I want to say this because my boss listens to this podcast, and let's just say that my boss left for a 4-month detail where he's going to be TDY in Texas for the next 4 months. So I went from a regular level network manager to the chief of IT. So now I'm dealing with things that are coming from way above my scope and understanding of what we do at the national park. Oh, by the way, Tom, I'm the network manager for the Grand Canyon. So
Oh, cool.
I work at a pretty legit outdoor place. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's like this little hole in the
No
ground.
idea. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. But now I'm the acting chief of IT for the next 4 months, and let's just say I got my teeth kicked in a little bit today, and I do not envy Lowell's position, nor do I understand how he is so good at managing it, because this is going to be an uphill struggle. But he's around for mentorship, and his boss, who's now my boss, has I'm going to keep her nameless in case she doesn't want to be broadcasted on the podcast.
Yeah.
She was very good at mentoring me today and told me this is going to be a really good opportunity for me, and she looks forward to working with me on things. All right. This weekend, though, plan on watching the Super Bowl, being on call in case anything breaks at the park that needs to be
Everything's
fixed.
gonna break.
And then just doing stuff in preparation for the weekend before Amanda's arrival, because next weekend Amanda's moving out here, so we're excited about that.
That weird chick you met in Texas.
Yeah, something like that. Hopefully she hasn't moved here yet. She's still got time to back out.
She's still back out last second.
But that's kind of it for me. Are you gonna try to watch the Super Bowl with me, Austin?
I think we'll see.
Okay,
We'll see.
I think you should pirate it because that's the best way to do it.
How do we watch it? We watched it 2 years ago together?
2 years ago. 2 years ago. You were able to get somehow
on NFL.
like a trial version on CBS or whatever they were broadcasting it from.
I think you can actually watch it on Paramount. Because CBS owns Paramount, and I have Paramount, so I might be able to watch it that way.
Okay. Dude, I thought a bug was crawling on me. It was my headphone wire. I'm losing my mind.
So, but yeah, we'll figure it out. We can watch it or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah.
But
let's get into your special news, Rob, that you have for Tom.
Okay, Tom. Here's something fucking crazy. I'm from 2nd ID, 1st to the 23rd Infantry, Recon, and Snipers. Your unit specifically replaced my unit in Iraq. We were the first striker unit to go over. We did right seat, left seat with you guys in Mosul, Iraq. I don't know if you remember that.
I went out on a couple of them. I didn't really, I was a specialist, so I didn't really get priority.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I need to go find pictures because I have pictures, and I'll DM this to you sometime. I have pictures of me next to one of your guys with our 2nd ID patch and your 25th lightning patch.
Yeah,
and us kind of flexing the unit patches. I got to go find that picture, but I was just thinking about that when you said that you were in Recon for 25th ID. So there is a high opportunity because you would have been a part of headquarters company, right? Yep. And same with me. And we're a smaller unit. We're not the regular
Yeah.
We're not the regular like
You
Alpha
guys were
Bravo
what?
Charlie.
You guys probably talked to each other and didn't even know it.
I know that's what like I have goosebumps right now because
Yeah.
like I thought you were and don't get me wrong, like I think it would be cool if you were still with like Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta whatever, or even headquarters mortars, but it blows my fucking mind that you literally did the exact same job as me basically,
Yeah.
and you guys were our handovers. And we know like we had a rough deployment, but we also know that the IEDs and shit got worse, where they were actually able to start fucking up the strikers and hurting people. And you know, I saw in your documentary, and we'll get into stuff that you want to talk about or don't want to talk about. But it just when you said that you were with the scout platoon, like I got goosebumps because I was like, holy shit! Not only
literally the same. Yeah.
All Army.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we did our handover in Missoula. Like I remember being with you guys for like 3 weeks before we left country.
Yeah, I remember getting into country and just how long it took to actually get to Mosul. Just all these, all the standby to standby stuff, and
To
then
hurry up and wait.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think when we first got into Mosul, it doesn't really dawn on you until you get like a random rocket flying into your fob, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a interesting time to be there, and I know you guys had a tough deployment before, and it's such a bizarre thing probably to see new guys coming in, and you're just knowing what they're going to run into, and not being able to like really convey that to people, right? Because I mean, we had the same situation with we were getting replaced as well, right? So that's wild. That most likely we did left seat.
Yeah.
that's
We
crazy.
might have crossed paths and literally talked to each other because our recon and sniper section was only 24 guys. So like there's a high possibility that if I can dig up that picture, you will know the person, or it could have been fucking you.
We'll
for
see.
all
It would be wild if it was me.
I have
That
to
would be
find that
be
picture.
even crazier if it was you.
I know that would be absolutely insane.
It's
While you
19
guys are talking,
years
I'm
later. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to like, I mean, and you
Who
know, I don't even
knows?
care if people like get upset that we're talking about stuff like this. Do you
But-
know on Facebook how to look up old albums? Like, I can't figure out Facebook anymore.
I have no idea.
I haven't used it in so
If
long.
anything, we can figure it out after the podcast.
Yeah, after the podcast, and we'll repost about it later. Or at minimum, I'm
Yeah.
gonna send it to you. You can tell me if you know that guy, and yeah. But I'm gonna let you take back over on hosting, Austin, for a second. I'm
Oh,
gonna
you're
shut
good,
up
man.
because like
Yeah, go.
that broke
more
my
in-
brain.
So, yeah, let's get into your whole backstory. Like, why did you join the military? What made you decide to join the military? All
Yeah,
that.
sure. Yeah. So I come from a family of service, I think similarly to Anthony, but my grandfather was a World War II vet, fought on Iwo Jima, Marine Corps lieutenant. And then my other grandfather was in the Navy, but he was stationed in London during World War II. So he didn't see too much action, right? But my grandfather, Marine Corps veteran, was in charge of, just to give you an idea of his kind of character and what he was awarded the Purple Heart and Navy Cross. But out of the 58 men that he was in charge of, 54 of them were either wounded or killed in action. And he was also wounded by a mortar round, I think. But like if he didn't make it through that, I wouldn't be here, sitting with you guys today. So it's like a pretty wild thing to think about. But anyways, like both my grandfathers served, and that was something that I really kind of, both of them, were an influence in my life. And my grandfather went on to be a judge and kind of this pillar in our community. And he also volunteered for 4 or 5 different veteran service organizations, VFW, American Legion, March of Dimes, some organizations that aren't around anymore. But just seeing how service oriented it was, active in the community, that was something that I really looked up to, and that really inspired me to join. Right, I joined when I was 19, graduated high school just barely, and didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I went to tech school for like a semester and did something crazy like 19 credits, and then I was like, this is not not
Not what I
ideal
want to do.
yeah. So that's when I started poking around recruiters, and went to an Army recruiter, and basically was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do infantry. And they're like, "Are you sure? Like, there's other job, there's other
Are
jobs."
you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, like, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, totally." Because in my mind, that's the ideal soldier, right? Doing the fighting, being in the front lines, stuff like that. So that's kind of the push that I got to join. And of course, 9/11 was something else that was going on at the time. So it's kind of a perfect storm to be of service and join. And yeah, that's how I got into it.
Okay. And was the Army your first choice?
I went to, I think I went to a Marine recruiter, and I was just like, "This does not sound great."
I
Like,
don't want to be.
yeah,
I don't want to just
exactly.
eat crayons and do
Yeah.
Good
nothing.
decision. You
They,
had the
you
same
know,
weapon systems or
yeah,
the same.
he didn't make it sound like it was going to be a good time. So,
Yeah.
but how much of a good time is being in the infantry in general, right? You have no idea when you're getting
What are you
ready to
talking
join.
about? You're doing all that Hollywood stuff like
Yeah,
80% of the time, 20% BS. Or wait, was it the opposite? I think
I'm
it was
pretty
like
sure
more
it's
like
the opposite.
80% BS. By the way, Austin's infantry too. He was a Charlie though. He
Charlie,
was
yeah,
smart
more
infantry. He knew how
yeah,
to do
smart
mortar
infantry.
stuff.
You say?
Yeah.
yeah. I was the not that.
No, same. We are the same people. You
Yeah.
just have a longer beard than me.
Right. But it was, you go through, Fort Benning. I went through Fort Benning, and got stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington. Which at first, when I heard I was 25th IB, I was like, "Nice, going to Hawaii." And then, they said Washington. I was like, "Bummer."
God damn
What?
it!
Like,
From
way
sun
way
and
colder.
fun to rain and
Yeah, way colder,
like,
and
yeah.
more rain, which is makes challenging training, leading up to deployment, right? Some of the coldest times I've ever had in my life, and being from Wisconsin too, the coldest I've ever been was in the training grounds in Fort Lewis, Washington. We're just wet
Oh,
and
jeez.
cold at 40 degrees in the rain.
Yeah.
Right.
All your stuff is soaked.
Yeah, there's no
They
getting
don't care.
around it. And that's back when we still had to polish boots and stuff like that. So that was your waterproofing your boots. It lasted for like an hour out there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's wild because you'd been on, I think, the other side of the airfield. Like we were on different sides of the airfield. 25th ID was over closer to like Ranger Bat, if I
Mhm.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then we were on the other side of the airfield. I don't know what we were close to. Just a bunch of people from second ID, I guess.
Yeah.
So wild. All right. So you did one enlistment, you went to Fort Lewis, and then one of the reasons why we found you super interesting, actually no, what I want to stay on your deployment because your deployment was tough,
Right.
from what I understand. And would you like to share with some of our listeners on some of your
one thing I
Go.
wanted to actually talk about is the difference between like how did you feel going into your first deployment compared to like how did you feel going into your second deployment?
I only had one.
Oh,
One.
okay. I
You
thought
didn't pay
deployed
attention.
twice.
You didn't pay attention.
I thought he was twice.
That was Anthony. I know they
no.
look the same in the documentary, but no.
I thought he was
I was like,
deployed
what's he
twice.
talking about? Second deployment.
Oh, I thought you were deployed twice. My bad.
Just one was enough. I got it. I understood.
Right.
After that. But going to Mosul, I mean, just how naive I was going into it. Like, I was like really thankful that I wasn't going to Baghdad, right? Because you hear all the stories, going in about Baghdad, and then we're going to be up north, and that's all I really knew, right? Going into it.
You're like, this will be way better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like no idea. Wrong. But being in a small platoon, right? Like we had a small platoon as well, which I think composed of 4 strikers, and So we weren't really manning, sometimes we just had enough guys to just, man the air guard hatches and maybe one or two guys down below, and we would rotate out. But we were kind of like utility players, and we had a really, I would say we had a really intelligent group of guys, a lot of ex-Rangerback guys that got kicked out for either like DUIs or, just stupid
Normal stuff.
misconduct stuff. But they really, took us under their wing, the younger guys, and really showed us how to get away with all the, like having the sideburns just at regulations, and, getting away with, all these regulations, like just kind of skirting by. So like we weren't too favored by the battalion commander. So we'd get sent on all these little side quests and stuff like that, like ACO's taking fire, send the scouts down to see if they can figure out where it's coming from, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we would get put on all these kind of like, either like we'd be doing QRF, or we'd be doing high value target stuff, detainees, snatch and grabs, security for our sniper teams, 72-hour missions, just all sorts of different things, depending on what was needed. But and then like the dreaded patrol to contact, right? Where it's just a go, essentially just drive around. So you pull
recon to contact, like basically,
which is just for those of you who don't know, you just drive around until you get blown up, or you get ambushed from rooftops, or whatever it is. So it's like I remember the first couple missions, how nervous I really was to be in the air guard hatch, because at that time we didn't have any kind of up armored strikers except for like the bird cages on the side.
The chicken cage or whatever.
Right. And we would get blown up once or twice, and then we're like, we are just so exposed. Like basically from, you can hide in the air guard hatch, right? But there's no, so we started putting sandbags, and then we went down to our mechanics and see if they had any sheet metal lying around. So we had like 1/2-inch steel plates that we started welding onto our strikers to give us more protection, right, and support. So that was kind of like an interesting phenomenon that ended up happening, was we just kind of took it into our own hands to start building up our strikers, and like dudes were welding, cages around the TCs and trying to just protect ourselves. And so once we started getting more used to it, getting attacked and ambushed and different things like that, you kind of settle into the understanding that you're probably not going to make it out alive. And if you do, you should be, considering yourself pretty lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Was making a note, because the thing that blows my mind is our vehicles became your guys' vehicles too.
Yeah.
And that was, it's funny because like you guys came up with some solutions to like literally every single mission that you were talking about was the same shit we were doing, where, like those of you who don't know what recon's primary job is you're supposed to usually kick out anywhere from like a day or a couple days ahead of your battalion. And you're supposed to be the eyes and ears of the battalion. You're not supposed to be getting in firefights. You're not really supposed to be drawing contact. You're not supposed to be seen. You're literally supposed to be the ghosts. Like you're supposed to be out there and no one knows that you're there.
High stakes hide and seek.
Yeah. High stake hide and seek. Exactly. And we would constantly get tasked out too for snatch and grabs, which blew my mind, because I was like, are we a line unit or are we a recon unit? But I mean, like, I'm not going to turn down a raid at the same time when I'm 21 years old and all I want to do is
all
fight
you have
insurgents.
is male testosterone pumping through you.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's funny because like we were QRF as well. They would send us out in the vehicles to see if we could draw contact. They would send us out on foot to see if we could draw contact. They would have us go shoot at things to see if we could draw contact. Like it's just, I'm sorry. Like this entire time we're talking, like I just like keep like thinking like, holy shit, like you literally had to do the same shit as I had to do. And you're like, when you told Austin the reason why I got out was one was enough, I got out as well. And then I got fucking recalled like 3 years later to go to Afghanistan.
Yeah. I lucked out on that for sure. But also you have to like, thinking about it too. A lot of my buddies that's when they were stop lossing people, right? They were just pausing people's contracts and
Yeah.
That's what happened to Rob.
sending them back over. But the deployment itself was pretty challenging, right? We had the first democratic elections where, we had to pull security. We had a sniper position, overwatch over polling stations and pulling security for that. And then some of the major challenges were we lost. Our platoon sergeant was killed in action, and one of our squad leaders was killed in action, pretty close to each other. And I took RPG shrapnel to the head, got knocked unconscious, didn't get a new helmet, nothing. They just kind of like, glad you're still alive. Like,
it's like, yeah,
here's your
it'll
Mitch,
still work.
go back out there. Like,
yeah, I literally had to like pin the find some bobby pins and just pin the cloth back on my.
And it'll still work.
Yeah, it's just a little cracked. It's okay. But so it's like, it gets real quick when you're faced with those challenges, especially being a young platoon and then losing the leadership that you trained with. And that has been kind of like, they're almost like father figures, right? Because it's just like, they're the ones who are disseminating the orders and making sure that everyone's okay. And then you lose your platoon sergeant. And then within, I think, a month, we lost one of our squad leaders as well, both during ambushes, right? So it was never, I think I can only count on one hand how many times we actually got into firefights with insurgents, right? But there were usually real quick hits, whether it was a IED in the road, then ambush from rooftop, which was where we lost one of our squad leaders. And then the other one was a rocket attack. So they were, it's all, the military, we use humor to really kind of cope with the stress of the situations, right? So it's like, we're laughing at stuff that most people would be horrified.
Dark humor is the best thing.
Yeah, it's like the only thing that really kind of gets you through it, and to be able to alleviate some of that pressure of the seriousness of the situations that you're in.
I lost my squad leader from my line unit when we were like 3 weeks away from redeploying and back. And it's one of those things and we had other people that got hurt, and we had other casualties within the battalion. And guys I knew, and it was just weird because, like, when that stuff actually happened, like we had 4 guys die from like Bravo Company on our very first raid. Like, as soon as we got into Samara, which I think it's either south of Baghdad or north of it, because we had to fight our way up to Mosul. Right. Like, we had to work our way up to Mosul, and we got in a lot of firefights on the way up there. There was a lot of resistance. There was a lot of like Mosul didn't exist until we actually got there and established it. And it was just one of those things that, like, someone died, we'd have their funeral, and we would just like keep going. And no one like processed it until like we got back and like we saw the families and shit like that. And it's just,
it's no one really tells you about the process of that and what that looks like. And it's like you have a quote unquote funeral, which is just like, you have an hour or so set aside where you can have visitation. Then there's like a little ceremony with the boots, and you see a lot of pictures of that kind of stuff. But then basically for us, they're like, we're going to give you 48 hours off so you don't go out and retaliate or anything like that, right? So it wasn't like we want you to process. It's like we don't want you to like go out and cause major damage because you guys are you just lost.
You're upset,
right? Yeah. So they I remember a chaplain came in and they sat us, we were all in, our whole platoon was like in a half circle, and a chaplain came in, and then a medic or a psychologist officer came in and basically said, "Hey, if you guys are having trouble sleeping, we have sleeping pills and like stuff that we can give you." And then one of my team
It's
leader at the
always the answer.
time picked up a folding chair and he just like chucked it across the room. He's like, "One of our friends just died, and you're like offering us sleeping pills." Like he's
You're
just
offering us Ambien, like
yeah, and
the
basically
most
Mhm.
addictive fucking drug
that was
out
That's what
there
they
for
give
sleeping.
you.
that was the end of that meeting, right? So it no one really talks about that process or how readily available drugs, medications were, right? So we had dudes that were on like muscle relaxers, anxiety medications, because like
Mhm.
you go into a doc and just be like, "Hey, well, what do you got?" Like, so it's like,
Anything to keep the mission going.
yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that in the background, and then no one really tells you what it's like to go home and then face their families, right? And face their children and be with them. And you can't say exactly what happened, even though you saw what happened,
Mm.
but you have to just be there with them. And they're, so lost. The loss is so great. And it doesn't really sink in. Um, because you don't have time to process it during the deployment.
Mm.
Yeah, and then how quickly did you get out when you got back? Did you have time left on your contract, or
I I started out processing as soon as I could,
as
pretty
soon
much.
as you got back, right?
Pretty much. I think a couple
Yeah,
months after getting back.
yeah,
I remember there was like a span of time where it was just kind of like lawless, where everyone was just trying, like people were going on leave, and it
yeah.
was new guys coming in and like big transitions. They were like splitting up platoons and like kicking people out to different places, and like it was a challenging time. And I remember just trying to go to all my appointments and get out, and they're like, "Hey, we got a PT test coming up," and I was like, "No, no, no!" Like I'm out of like
Like
I'm
I'm out.
out of, like
Did
let
did
me
the
talk.
did the
Like
thought of re-enlisting ever go through your head?
yeah, I definitely thought about it,
Yeah.
and a lot of my friends already knew when they got back that they had a choice of uh,
Mm.
um, going back or going with a new unit. So a lot of guys just jumped right into another deployment because they know that they
Mm.
were going to go anyways, and they might as well go back to Mosul where they were familiar with the terrain and the city and the territory and stuff like that. So there's a lot of another thing that's not really talked about is shame and guilt around survival. Survivor's guilt, right?
Survivor's guilt. Right.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and being like all my friends that I fought with, that I fought alongside with, are going back, and I'm not, right? And I
Mm.
made a choice to get out, and I feel like I'm letting my friends down. And I don't know if I'd be able to forgive myself if one of them, died in combat while I'm here. Like I'm going to go to college and all these, get out,
Right.
do all these different things. But there's a lot of kind of guilt and shame around just making it through that
Mhm.
situation when friends that you served with didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you come back, like, so w- when I got out, I went back to Florida, and I was so far removed from anyone that was in the military that was currently serving. Like, I was going to college, and I just I felt alone. I felt upset. I started processing it. I had a lot of survivor's guilt because, my friends that died overseas on the initial deployment. And then, like, same thing that you said, like, we had guys that immediately went because they either re-enlisted, jumped units, whatever, or like our unit, like, basically hung out at Fort Lewis for a year and then they redeployed.
Right.
And so, and a couple of those guys died on that deployment. So, like, like, to this day, like, it fucks with my head, but not on the level where it's debilitating. It's just, it's it's almost like the military didn't prepare us for what we got into. if that makes sense. Like there was,
Well, yeah, they don't prepare for the afterwards. They just prepare
yeah,
you
they
for
compare like,
what you're gonna do there. They never prepare you for what's gonna happen after you get home.
and
Yeah,
then when you get out, it's like here's this drug, here's that,
Here's some
and this is
drugs.
how
Oh
you're
yeah,
gonna
here's
cope.
some
Oh, you
Ambien.
can't
You can
sleep.
sleep well.
one of
I was addicted to Ambien for fucking 2 years. Like,
one of the most challenging experiences that I had, and again, this is like kind of the unheard of stories of casualties in the military, is after our platoon sergeant was killed in action. Um, I walked into our bathrooms, and in our bathroom was one of our team leaders, and he was cleaning off our platoon sergeant's kit, right? So he had a toothbrush, and he was just standing there sobbing, scrubbing off his flak vest and all his ammo pouches, because you have to turn those in because that's government property, right? So no one
Yeah.
talks about
yeah,
that. Like, we have to clean out our vehicles after a casualty. No one talks about that and the
Yeah.
impact that that has on the platoon, and the people that you served with, right? So it was a few weeks after, and that was our second casualty, our Sergeant Solo, who ended up, being shot in an ambush, right? So it was a pretty challenging experience overall. A lot of loss, just a lot of war. They say war is hell, right? Destruction. You don't really know exactly why you're doing what you're doing in the bigger grand scheme of things, right? You're just running missions nonstop. So it's just like you're just trying to survive mission to mission.
exactly. Yeah.
And then when you got, how long before you got out did you realize you needed to do something for a change?
Took me about 2 years. I'm
Okay.
a slow learner, I guess.
But that's fine.
No, that's
And then in
fine.
those
Like,
2 years, because you mentioned, like, we'll get into it, but you mentioned in the documentary, like, that you were just drinking to sleep, like
Yeah.
you were just doing anything you could to get away from those flashbacks, those memories, and so how did that all happen? Like, what made you decide to go from getting out to deciding to walk to Los Angeles?
Yeah. So it was a big kind of drawn out process. So I got out in 2006 and went back to Wisconsin, where I'm from. And it was just kind of like looking at all my peers. They're all graduating college, getting, starting their careers. And I just kind of felt like I was behind the curve as far as it, socially speaking. And then you have this like tremendously horrific experience of war that you're carrying around with you that you can't really explain to people, right? Because not many
exactly.
people have that experience, that life experience. So it's hard to connect with people. So you end up isolating yourself even more because you tell yourself no one's going to understand my experience or what I went through. So why even talk to anyone about it, right? So you start to internalize a lot of the trauma and stress and things from the past that impact you, right? And that's why we get this is just my opinion. This is just why we get flashbacks. Is it's like your system's trying to process this experience that it doesn't know how to process, right? So whether it be IEDs or reacting to things that don't necessarily need a reaction. Like an example would be like I would be driving on a 3-lane highway, see a bag of trash on the road, I'd get over as many lanes as I could, right? And doing that in Milwaukee, right, which is unnecessary, right? There's no threat there, but in my mind, yes, right, yes, there is,
100%.
right?
Yes.
So just trying to manage life, right, with that all going on internally, and basically using alcohol to suppress that and also numb myself out, essentially, to be able to function in a day-to-day thing, right? So I was drinking 5 or 6 nights a week, pretty heavily, to the point of blacking out. It was a pretty regular occurrence, and that was kind of my goal, right? I was like, I don't want to remember any of it, right? So whatever I needed to do to just like maintain a job and maintain okay relationship with my family, by just checking in and stuff. But other than that, I was pretty focused on drinking,
And
which
that's normal. Like that's normal
totally,
for almost anybody who comes home.
yeah, totally. And where I'm from, it's in the culture there, right, in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh
Drinking,
yeah.
heavy drinking in Wisconsin, it's like, people celebrate it. So it's like you can fly under the radar for a long time and people just think you're a good drinker, right? They have no
Yep.
idea. They have no
You're
idea,
suffering.
yeah, that what you've seen, what you've witnessed, what you participated in, because you're not expressing that. So I think the time between getting out and asking or going in to see going into a vet center for the first time was about 2 years, and then I went through the VA, and at that time they were just throwing medication at people, right? So I was on 5 or 6 different medications. No one cross checks them to see if they're interacting with each other or anything like that. So the result is just kind of walking around life like a zombie, right? Not feeling anything. You're just kind of dead to the world and you're just kind of there, which I felt was worse than feeling what I was feeling, right? So I ended up taking myself off of medications. Not recommended that you do that on your own, right? So I had like pretty intense withdrawals from a lot of the stuff that I was on. And between going to my first therapy session to walking across the country, we ended up leaving in 2013, right? So it's a big chunk of time where I was just kind of, say lost in the sauce, right? Just
Mm,
really just drinking to get by.
okay. And
Yeah.
where did that idea come from of walking?
Yeah, I mean, I got to the point of wanting to take my own life. We had 2 guys that were in our platoon briefly, died by suicide, and then we lost our platoon leader, who I think he passed at the age of 37. Don't know if it was suicide or not, but it started becoming clear that. Um, that option was becoming more enticing for me, the longer that I just kind of sat in that space. Right.
Mhm.
So starting to notice the patterns that I was in, which was, going to school. I was in college at the time. I think I dropped out 3 or 4 times, and just like, I was like, get myself together, get back into it, continue on. And then just slowly start to slip back down into destroying relationships, dropping out of school, really hitting alcohol really hard, and then pick myself back up and then get back into school. And then so I kept repeating these cycles and started noticing that if I didn't do anything about it, I was going to probably end up taking my own life. So it was really just having the choice of like, do I want to just continue doing this, or I have to figure out something to change, right? Which is the hardest thing. Is if you don't change, nothing changes, right? So it has to be you that takes the first step to be able to say, hey, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to be doing this anymore. What am I doing? What is my direction? What is my purpose? Why am I, you just have to start asking yourself these really serious questions. Otherwise, life just continues to steamroll you unless you say, hey, I need to make some changes. And my buddy that I served with lives in, at the time he lived in Santa Barbara, California, and he would call me in the dead of winter in Wisconsin, where it'd be like -17 wind chill, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm just wearing shorts, flip flops, and chilling out here." And he would always invite me to come out and visit, and I just never either had the money or the time, or whatever it was, whatever excuse that I was making. And it came to me. I was in my sister's apartment one day, and I was just like, I think I'm going to go visit my buddy, and I'm going to take some time and just trek out there. And I didn't have any gear or anything because I think I tossed a lot of my stuff getting out of the Army. So he sent me a rucksack, and I told him I'd walk it back to him. And
And that was Emmett, right?
yeah, that's my buddy Emmett, right? And
Mhm.
he was in our one of our sniper teams, and he mailed me out his rucksack, and I told Anthony kind of my plan and what we're gonna do, and he just said, "Hey, man, I'm in the same boat. Like, we really need to like make some kind of change in our lives that is going to, the whole idea behind it is like interrupting those cycles, right? So interrupting the drinking cycles, interrupting these things that I grew accustomed to managing my internal stress. So this was the idea that hopefully would help us understand ourselves better, but also understand what we needed to do to start healing.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you got anything to add, Rob? What you doing over there?
I was still looking for like album stuff. I got a couple things going on over here. Eventually, I might have to step away for a sec to let Allie out. But dude, like Tom, I think I've never related to a guest so much before because we bring on a lot of people that either had similar. No, let me say it differently. I've brought on a lot of people on the podcast who either have no combat experience, but they have some sort of like PTSD and stuff. Because one thing I've learned, especially on my second deployment, was nowhere as rough as my first. Our worst day is what we perceive as our worst day because that's what the worst day is. So that, with that in mind, someone that has combat experience, whether it's low or high, is going to interpret that as their worst day, right?
Right.
With that being said, most guests we bring on, and I'm not trying to say this in an egotistical manner, they don't have the same level as a combat experience. However, we have brought on people that have, and I've talked to Austin privately about this. We've had on guys who were in special operations, actual units, like above what you and I were doing, and have levels of combat experience that I don't even understand.
Right.
But I've never had someone on who, and I'm sure our experiences were slightly different, but it's just, it's weird.
But it's the same time, same place,
same
mission.
I mean, it's
same,
a year apart, same exact fucking job, and like all the things that you're saying, like, dude, man, like my first like 2-3 years, I couldn't even sleep. Had to drink every fucking night to sleep. Like that was the only way I could suppress the nightmares. And
it's just disassociating yourself as much as possible from the feelings.
And that's normal for a lot of people to come back.
No, it's just,
and they don't talk. And like you said, Tom,
and you don't have anyone to talk to.
Exactly. Right. And you don't want to be a burden and talk to somebody. And they say they understand, but they don't because they've never been through it. Like and you don't want to be a burden to somebody and talk to them because they only say they understand so much. But it's not the same when you talk to somebody who has been through the same exact things. Like you can relate to, and that's with that. Not only the military, that's with anything. Like Rob's, we've had guests on that are amputees or that have been through other traumatic experiences, and it's just being around the people who have gone through the same things.
Yeah, we had. It's funny because it's like really about the perspective that you have too, and we've had SF guys come up and be like, "We do not envy you guys. You guys just roll around. We're direct action, right? We know what our mission. We know what we got to do.
Right? Yeah, we have one target, and that's it.
Execute it. You guys just roll around and just get blown up and shot at regularly on a daily basis, right? So it's really the perspective that you have around the experience itself that really kind of shapes what you carry with you, and it's not easy to be that isolated, right? Because you think about less than 1% of the population has served, and even a smaller percentage of that population sees combat, right? So you're very, very isolated when you get out, and there's that gap between DoD and VA, right? So you can just kind of be in that gray area where it's just like, I'm just doing whatever I can to find some sense of comfort. And that's usually, drinking, right? I remember I was getting up to like, an 18 pack of High Life bottles pretty regularly. Like that was like, I'd get that a couple of nights a week. And like the times when I would stop drinking was I was thinking because I would give myself alcohol poisoning and I had to take a few days off and just not recognizing it, right? And just really risky behaviors on top of that, like mixing medication and drinking. And just because I was on medications for sleep, anxiety, didn't mean I was curbing my drinking habits, right? So it was real
Right.
kind of risky behavior compounding over time, right? Because ultimately I didn't really care if I lived or died, right? Because I kind of left everything out on the battlefield, as they say. And because of our training in the infantry, we see asking for support or help as weakness, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yep.
I
Yeah,
mean, and that's not even just military though. That's
right,
just guys in general.
right,
Like we're taught that like you don't ask for help, you don't be vulnerable
right,
as guys because
You don't want
you
to be a
don't. Yeah,
burden.
right.
you're a guy.
And that
Like,
that compounds your isolation, right? So that even adds more to the isolation because you're like, I need to deal with this on my own and
mhm,
shoulder this load on my own
Hmm.
and really take up the brunt of it, right? Without asking for help, keeping my head held high and my chest, chest out, when really
right.
internally I am grasping at straws, right? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and the only thing that I have to manage that is alcohol, right? So it's just kind of a recipe for disaster. And seeing friends dying by suicide, and then other friends having health complications too. We know a lot about burn pit stuff that's happening right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge.
Knowing guys that have most of their intestines removed, that have colostomy bags now because they were exposed to toxic smoke. I had a guy that in our headquarters company who ended up passing, and then in the autopsy, his intestines were all basically atrophied and had stopped working totally, and that's how he ended up passing. So it's like you start to see it around in your community. You see it around in other veterans, and you're just kind of like waiting for that call, whether it's a friend or so that we just take this moment to say that you need to check in on your people, right?
Oh, 100%. And that's what we try to get at. Like, it's okay to not be okay, but you don't have to do it alone. Like,
Yeah,
it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help and talk to people because even if people don't fully understand what you're going through, like, sometimes all you need is someone to listen to you. Like,
Mhm.
so you can talk to somebody and, the best thing you can also do is find other people. Like, even if it's a veteran that you have no idea who they are,
right,
most of the time they'll still listen to you
totally,
you know
yeah,
because that they've been through the same things. You can go to some random veteran stranger and 90% of the time they'll probably listen to you.
yeah, yeah. And I encourage it, right?
Oh yeah.
Reaching out, connecting with people you haven't talked to in years, just to see how everyone's. Just say, "Hey, man, I'm just calling to check in, see how you're doing, see how everything's going." Even if it's not going well for them, right? The fact that
Mm.
you reached out and you connected with them can shift things for people, right? And understanding
Oh
that
yeah.
Mhm.
they're not alone in this struggle. And I mean, you spend years by yourself thinking about how things could be different, how I could have done things differently,
Mm.
right? Why are my friends dead and why am I alive?
Yeah.
All these really challenging questions. If you just sit with them, that they'll eat you alive, right? Over years. So um, to be able to talk it through with someone that you trust, or to be able to write it out or just get it out of your head, right? Journaling is a really good exercise just to get it out of the head onto paper. You don't need to share it with anyone. You can burn it. Who cares, right? But
Mhm.
using
Mm.
those strategies to be able to kind of almost like a pressure valve, right? To decompress from the day-to-day stress that we still suffer from past experience.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. But yeah, so after that, let's get into your walk, unless Rob has anything else he wants to add.
No, I feel like we definitely covered the Iraq stuff,
Mm.
and like it's been awesome, even though it's so many years later. I mean, like it's been a
Oh yeah,
while,
but you
but
still
like
have the
still
same.
like
It's still fresh.
it still is. I'm gonna let you guys start talking on the walk. I'm gonna go take care of Allie with a couple
Okay.
things, and
Yeah, go
yeah.
go yell at her and do all the
No, I'm
things.
not gonna yell at her. Allie's my service dog, by the way. who's very needy. She's been at my
She
office
is.
for 11 hours today, and she's pissed off because we didn't
Oh,
go on a
no,
walk or do
geez.
anything fun. So I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah, sounds
Okay,
good.
man. No, yeah. So let's get into your walk. You, like I said, you wanted to do something to get out of your head, something for a change, and I think it's awesome that Anthony went with you because I'm sure it would have been 10 times harder if you did it by yourself.
Right. I don't even know if I would have finished it.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, I can tell you by now if I wouldn't have done it by myself. You don't have anybody to talk to. Like, who are you gonna
Right.
talk to? Like yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. So we really kind of like we kind of like just out of necessity it became a bigger thing than we had anticipated. We ended up doing a awareness campaign that ended up raising some money for a nonprofit back in Milwaukee.
Mhm.
We did like I remember Anthony was writing like press releases as we were walking. Like
How
we're
many
doing.
interviews did you do before you even started your walk?
Oh wow, yeah, quite a few. And then on the way as well, there were people that would meet up with us, interview us. There are veterans that would reach out to us. I'm sure Anthony kind of talked about this quite a bit
Mhm.
too. But everyone the majority of people were supportive. We had some vets that weren't too supportive. We had some some people reach out that said they were going to protest.
What are
Protests,
you
which
protesting though?
I had, you just get these emails every once in a while, and you're like,
What are you
what
gonna protest? You're gonna
where's
protest that we're walking?
but we were open to it, right? Because we were leaving Milwaukee, and at the same time, two veterans trekking across the country, leaving from Milwaukee, and at that time, Harley Fest was going on in Milwaukee.
Mhm.
So we're like, yeah, you can come protest all you want, man, like that.
Right, like what's gonna
Welcome.
happen?
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing.
exactly. So, and understanding that, like, we had one vet that I think was in our battalion, and he like looked at us and he said, you guys know what you signed up for. I don't know why you're making a big deal about this, right? And for me, that just kind of signals how much he was suffering, right, at
Yeah,
that
it's
time
like
too.
you
Right?
don't know what you signed up for. Like, yeah,
Right.
you signed up to join the military, but
Yeah,
like,
you have the idea of the concept of
yeah,
war and what you think you're going to be doing, but in real time, right, two-way firing range, you don't know the impact that it's going to have on you, right? And it
hmm
really tests your capacity to take on suffering, right? Ultimately, and that's the challenging thing of it. So we ended up, setting some ground rules around why we were doing it, and one of the big things we did was try to not listen to music while we were walking, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we really
Okay.
wanted to take the time to be with ourselves and really process. We would talk with each other, and because Anthony is like 6'3" and I'm like 5'9", dude would like crush it. His stride was just like two of mine, right? There'd be times where he's just like off to the races, and I would be like, just go ahead. And then we'd have like rules around if we lose eyesight contact with each other, right? One person would wait until we made visual contact. There was rules that we had, like if someone wanted to take us to, which happened pretty regularly. People would want to take us out to dinner or something like that.
hmm
Even just getting into the vehicle, we'd have kind of a operating procedure where it's like I'd put my bag in, and then Anthony would wait, and I would wait till I got fully into the car before he would put his bag in, right? Because we were just, you feel like a soft target out there, right? You don't have
Make
that.
sure no, yeah, make sure you don't get kidnapped or
Yeah, if
something.
someone steals your bags, sometimes we would, like in the Mojave Desert, you can like see for 90, 100 miles, right? So I'm like, okay, we have like 4 days of walking ahead of us before we're going to see anyone. So it's
hmm
just like you really don't, you really have to take those kind of precautions. So we had all these little, systems in place that really helped us, I think, in the long run. We didn't run into any like too crazy situations where we felt we were in danger. It was more of just like, weird
Well,
character.
and you guys did have like protection on you,
Yeah.
like just in case like something something did go down. It's not like you guys were out there with just your fisticuffs and.
No, yeah, we were concealed carrying the whole way, which is, gave us another layer of protection.
Well,
As
especially when you're walking, like you especially at night, you don't know what's gonna happen, or and especially with like wild animals too.
right. Yeah, yeah. You don't know what you're going to run into, especially And we traveled basically all on country roads and country highways, frontage roads. So we were in some pretty natural environments where we were camping. Camping in the evenings, and we just had to you know find the safest places that we could.
Well, and even back then, I mean, smartphones and technology wasn't nearly what it is today.
Right.
Like
Yeah, there would be times when we would use like Google Maps in Iowa, and for those that are listening, Iowa has 99 counties, and they're all on a
oh
grid
jeez,
square, right? So there'd be,
99 counties in Iowa.
I believe so, yeah, I believe that's the number, something crazy like
Jeez.
that. So we would be following Google Maps, and we'd be walking down a country road in Iowa, and we timed it perfectly for harvest, like the soybean and corn harvest, right? So you have semi trucks flying by us going like, 45, 50 miles an hour, kicking up dust. And like Anthony would just be raging because we'd be getting hit with rocks, and like we're getting just covered in dust, and we're like sweaty, and it sucks. And these guys didn't care that we were there because they're getting paid by the truckload, right?
Mm.
So um, we were we were following Google Maps, and we came to like a dead end, and Google Maps said it went through. But like if you make a mistake like that, what we ended up having to do is walk back a mile, you go up a mile, and then you go over a mile, and then to find the parallel road running with that. So like you make a mistake like that, it's a 2 hour detour basically, walking. So there'd be times where we would get real frustrated or turned around. I think in Waterloo, Iowa, we got turned around a couple times with Google Maps, and so there's some frustrating times in the beginning. But once we got, I think, into eastern Colorado, and we could see kind of the Rockies in the distance and see how much progress we actually made. That was kind of our halfway point. But up until then, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, it took us a whole month to walk across Nebraska. And, it's just cornfields and soybean fields the whole way. So it was pretty challenging. I would say Wisconsin was one of the hardest states, right? Because we knew all the mile markers and all the towns, and, how far everything
Mhm.
is from everything, right? And once we got into Iowa, there's no like really knowing where things were, what towns were what, right? So it's kind of we were just able to kind of move from that point.
I don't know if Austin has this already, but what were you guys using to guide your route?
So we did backwards planning, of course, right? So we started with I started in LA and then planned backwards towards. So we had paper maps with us. Basically, every state that we went into, we grabbed a paper map. But we did use our smartphones most of the time. But
Mhm.
there are a few times when we were out of service area
Yeah.
where we'd have to rely on paper maps and stuff like that. But usually we would just go town to town, which was, you're not deviating too much from there. But we had a route planned, and there was only a few times where we had to go off that route. Which one time in Nebraska, we dipped south because we heard that there were cold snap happened, and there were cows frozen in place. And we're like, we are not messing around. Like we started this. We're like, we're not trying to be tough guys here. We're just trying to like do this for ourselves, raise some awareness around post-traumatic stress and veterans issues, and do a fundraiser and stuff like that. So we're like, we're not trying to be a tough guy and like, sleeping outside every night. Um, and we only did that when we had to, right? When we
Yeah.
didn't have a choice. But for the most part, there's so many people, supporters that we're incredibly grateful for, that came out of the woodwork to support us. And I don't know that we would have been able to finish it if we didn't have community support that we did.
And that's awesome because like social media wasn't as big as it is now. Like I feel like I feel like someone that would do that now would be able to get more support behind it in a quicker way. Whereas a lot of it was like probably word by mouth and Facebook sharing. And what type of iPhones are like, which phone was out then?
Oh
So
man,
like
I don't know.
iPhone 4, iPhone 6.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
it was 2013, so
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be that new of an iPhone.
No,
So
no, and the service was hit or miss. But I think
hit or miss. Yeah.
we had different providers, so I think it ended up working out pretty well. That there's only a few times where we had some technology issues with tracking and stuff like that. But we had everything as far as like emergency transponder on us that kind of tracked our location, right? And we had that kind of set up on our website. They're like little spot GPS things that you can throw in your bag.
Yep.
That just if we needed some kind of support in walking through the middle of nowhere, we had an emergency capability if we needed it, right?
Yeah. And you guys were doing like in between 10 to 20 miles a day, like 10 on the low end, 20 on the high end, or
Our goal was 10 a day. And that was to finish it in the time frame allotted. Sometimes that didn't work out. Sometimes that we'd have to take a few days off in a row just because our feet were so beat. And they're to the point. I don't know if Anthony talked about his foot, but at some point,
it was in the documentary. The photo of the
what they don't,
huge blister.
it was basically like I would say half his foot. And what they don't really show in the documentary is that he wears size 16 EE shoes. So it's just like this, like his massive wound on his foot to the point of where it was like a blister inside of a blister. And we're just kind of like, he's like, I don't even know what to do with this. Right. So you get to the point of you're walking that much day in and day out. Over the counter stuff doesn't really do it. The Dr. Scholl stuff doesn't really do it. People are
just
giving
ibuprofen and new socks, right?
ibuprofen, duct tape, right? We found out that duct tape works really well. You put a
Yep.
Band-Aid on and then slap some duct tape over that. And then the actual outside of the duct tape is slippery on sock, right? So you don't have any friction happening on that point. So that was our fix. So we're just duct taping our feet up essentially the majority of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. And then I saw in the documentary, and this struck home to me literally. I saw so I guess you had family come visit you when you were in Flagstaff, and then you guys made it out to the Grand Canyon, and I thought that was pretty cool. And what was that like morale wise? Because I mean, at that point, you're over your halfway point. You're in Arizona. Flagstaff had to be a trip because of the fact that you think of Arizona as like this non-snowy winter place, and then you're at 7,000 feet, and in the middle of Christmas time too. So there's probably either snow on the ground or cold temperatures. So explain what that was like.
Yeah, when we first started, we had our rucks were probably like 90 pounds. And then on day 2, we kind of pared that down to they're probably like 50 or 60. So immediately we're like, okay, we don't need all this. We had like cold weather gear. We were just basically carrying everything on us that we thought we needed for the duration of the trek, the change of the season, because we didn't think we were going to get support, right? The support that we did. But we were able to basically pare down our rucks to the point of, okay, we're not going to need cold weather gear until, we get to New Mexico, essentially. So getting into Flagstaff, which it's a beautiful place. I really enjoy Flagstaff. It's one of my favorite places to visit now. And the cold didn't bother us too much. It was kind of a relief, right? Because we were facing super hot temperatures, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, really hot and humid, which was really challenging to do. So now we were just, we could afford to have a couple layers on and just, pop a layer off if we were getting too hot and have nice, cool temperatures to kind of move in. So I think we did a lot better on the second half. But the thing that ends up happening is in the beginning, mentally, you're really in it. You're like, we're doing this and we're executing. And then your body's like, what's going on, right? We didn't really do much training for it. And that was a mistake, but we just went through with it anyways. And then when we got halfway done, and Anthony really articulates this pretty well, is that like he felt that mentally he had really picked up some things that he wanted to try and execute, and he was like really missing home. And at that time his daughter, I think, was 1, just turned 2, while he was gone. And so he's like, I want to I think I've found how to be a better father, how to be a better husband, things that I can work on. And he wants to like put those into practice, right? But problem is we're in Colorado.
Yeah.
And then at that time, our bodies had adapted to walking that much. So like our bodies, like first thing in the morning, we're like, let's get up and move, right? And then mentally, you're like, oh, I want to be done with this, right? So it's kind of a switch that ended up happening. But to go back to what Austin was talking about earlier, is that if Anthony didn't come on that trek, I don't know that I would have been able to finish it, just from the standpoint of we were both there to be able to pick each other up when we were having down days, right? There's days where we're just like, I do not want to be, I don't want to be walking right now, right? It's just like, I want to be done with this. And we had a documentary film crew following us around, filming us right on top of it, right? So it's just like, I don't want to be filmed right now. Like, so you're having all these like
Yeah.
things that are going on internally that you're struggling with. I'm supposed to be healing right now. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know what the outcome's supposed to be. But I knew that just walking and just moving and, taking those steps were the most important part.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to ask, in the documentary, from my perception of watching and talking to Anthony last week, it felt like you were there and you were getting it done, but it felt like Anthony definitely was talking to the cameras a lot. What was your mind frame at when the documentary people were there? Was it frustrating for you? Did you just not want to like go into details?
I think you're just really conscious that you're being filmed, right? And on top of that, I didn't really know what I was supposed to be talking about, or like I was a very kind of introverted person just to begin with.
Yeah,
And Anthony's the exact opposite, right? He's just like,
exactly.
explain to you exactly what's going on with me, how I got to that conclusion, and what I think I'm going to learn from it, right? So he's very like structured in the way that he speaks, his storytelling, all that kind of stuff, and that's just not my personality, or wasn't at that time, right? Because I was pretty locked up tight about my experiences. And one of the things that we talk about, and Anthony kind of talked about in the documentary, was building trust as a veteran. And that's something that's linked to, I think, a lot of war trauma, is that you don't have the ability to trust people in a combat zone. So that really kind of impresses on you when you come home and you're now in the civilian world, and you're like, who can I trust, right? I used to be able to trust the person to the left or the right of me in a combat situation. Now I don't have anyone. How am I going to build trust with people when I don't? I don't have the luxury of trusting people in a combat zone. So I think going into the trek, I still had that mentality of like, I can talk to Anthony, very freely and openly. And when I'm interviewed in the interview setting, and it kind of comes through in the documentary, like sitting down and just talking, I can answer questions if you're just asking me the right questions. But I'm not like, I'm not just talking stuff out, essentially, right? So that I think really came through in the documentary, about the internal struggles that I was going through at the time with trying to figure out what am I doing, right? How am I supposed to heal? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I'm out here not really knowing what I'm supposed to be doing, or what healing even looks like. And I think a lot of veterans get into that situation. Like for example, drinking, right? Like, what does it look like? What does my life look like if alcohol is not involved in my life, right? What does it
Yeah.
even look like? Like, how do I even begin or take the steps, or,
And
you
that's the
know,
hardest part, is taking those first steps.
exactly. And the trek for me really kind of highlighted that, where it's like, I didn't know what I was doing, how I was going to do it or what it was supposed to look like, or, how much I was supposed to be talking about it or any of that stuff. But I knew that just moving in that direction and things unfold as you start to move, right? So you make that decision that, yeah, I'm going to go talk to someone. I don't know what that looks like, or it's an uncomfortable experience to share with a third party for sure. But at the same time, understanding that like I can't continue on this way, right? It's not a sustainable way for me to live my life. And I don't want to live my life. I want to live my life to the fullest extent. And that's how I need to honor my friends that passed, right? It's like they don't get to live anymore. So like I have to use this opportunity to live my life to the fullest, to honor them with, my life and my service that I continue to do through helping, veterans and whatever it might be. But really just being open and receptive to what, could potentially be something that can help you move forward. And the trek really helped us, I think, one, build trust, going back to that, and trust not only in the community, but trust in ourselves to really believe that what we were doing was going to yield results for us, regardless if we didn't know what that looked like.
Mm-hmm. And then what was those last, so at the end, the last 7 miles, when you met up with Emmett and everybody, what was going through your mind at that point when you only had the 7 miles to go?
Yeah, that was like a big production because it's like, the other thing about the documentary that people don't know is that when they weren't filming us, they were back home filming our families and interviewing our families and talking to our
Right, and you
families.
had
Right. So
GoPros.
yeah. So it's always like in the back of your mind that, I don't know what, people are saying about me. It's going to be recorded. So you're like kind of stressing about that. And then on the last day, there were 7 miles. So there was like, we had to set up like, um, meeting Emmett and then walking the last 7 miles. So it's kind of a big production around it. And we just wanted to be done. We're just like,
Right, I don't care. Just
you
end it.
you look at our faces. It's funny. You look at the beginning of the documentary and at the end, right? We have like huge beards and we're just like fried from the sun because we had to walk through Mojave Desert, right? So we're just like just crusty and ready to be done. So it's like we're kind of over it, right? Kind of over the fanfare and the production. And it's like, yeah, we accomplished this, but also it showed me that it's like, yeah, I did this trek across the country, but internally there was definitely work that I still had to do, right? So it really highlighted that like I needed to focus my attention and energy on trying to heal myself and trying to resolve these past issues. And I say the main takeaways that I got were resolving the death of my friends, in the sense that, I came to the realization that, there was nothing that I could have done those days that would have made the outcome any different, right? My platoon sergeant was killed in action. I was given the day off, right? There was like 4 of us that got the day off. It rarely happened. And when you do have those days, you want to maximize them out, right? So you go to the chow hall, you go to the gym, you do all the things that you're not able to do on a regular basis. And then you find out one of your friends was killed and then you weren't there. And that was really impactful for me, right? So I spent so many years of what could have been different. How could I have done something differently to change the outcome of that day? And then coming to the realization that there's nothing that I could have done that day. And that's how it played out. And I have to be able to accept that that's how it happened, right? And accepting that fact was something that was really challenging for me to do. And
Yeah. Oh, sorry. But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, because like I said, at the end of it, you can tell, like especially in the documentary, that like Anthony had his perspective changed. Like whereas you like you didn't exactly find what you're looking for. Like you set out this journey to accomplish these things, and well, you changed as a changed, but there's still, like you said, certain things you still had to battle.
right. Yeah. And we both went in with kind of different intentions, right? So Anthony went in wanting to be a better father, a better husband, really establishing a better connection with his family. And I went in wanting to resolve the death of my friends, right? Which was, so there's two different kind of processes happening, but we were able to support each other, through that process. So, when I got to the end, I was like, yeah, I have this realization of, I can't change anything from the past. There's nothing that I can do right now in this moment to change what had happened that day, or those days. So that was a big revelation, but it also left me that I didn't grieve for their loss. I didn't take the time to really process the impact that it had, just the deployment in general, what it has on your body and nervous system, and how it is really throws everything off, right? Sleep deprivation on a regular basis, really just beating yourself up, for years on end being in the military. So I always use the analogy. It's like you got a basket of rocks, right? And these rocks are these past impressions. And I was able to take two big rocks out of that basket, right, with the death of my friends, and really saying, like, I have a better understanding of the situations and my role and position in them, but I'm still stuck with a basket of rocks, which are all the other impressions and stuff, events, missions, drinking situations, all those different things that I hadn't processed yet, or that I was ignoring because I didn't have the understanding or the capacity to process them at the time. Right. So what it really did for me was gave me a better understanding of, like, how much healing I actually had to do. Right. And not lying to myself, being honest and truthful and transparent with myself about where I need help, where I need support. And it really dawned on me that I had no tools, healthy coping mechanisms, really, to manage stress, right? Which it comes down to, everyone talks about post-traumatic stress, but really it's like, well, how are we dealing with stress in a general way?
Drinking.
Yeah. And in the military, what is drinking and physical punishment, essentially, right? So you're just like,
Yeah.
you're either, those are the two things that you're dealing with. So I'm like, I don't have any kind of, like, tools or skills. No one really has taught me how to manage stress. I think it's a thing that kind of eludes a lot of us, people who aren't in the military, right? So it's a big a problem that we have, that from a very early age we're not really taught how to manage our stress in a healthy way, and then we're just kind of left to our own devices to figure it out on ourselves, and we just do what brings some kind of comfort to the suffering that we're experiencing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then, no, I mean, like I said, stress is big for whether you're in or out of the military.
Yeah.
Like, everybody experiences stress. I mean, everybody deals with stress. And like you said, most people just find something that works for them and does it, no matter if it's good, bad, or indifferent for them. Like,
Right.
they just do it.
Right.
And then let's get into, so because the thing that did change you was the class that you took afterwards.
Yeah.
So how did you find about that class? Like, why that class?
Right. So there was so for people listening, it's a breath-based meditation class, and there was an instructor that was walking with us the last 7 miles of our trek, and wanted us to come out to a retreat that they were having. And if you would have asked me before going on the trek, I would have said, there's no way, you would catch me in a meditation class or breathing or any of that stuff. Right. But I came to the realization that, like, it doesn't matter what I look like when I'm trying to do this, right? Because trekking across the country just kind of cracked me open into the sense that, like, I'm just trying to figure out how to feel better. Like, no one ever taught me how to manage stress. Military definitely doesn't teach you how to manage stress well, or in a healthy way. So I'm like, this is an opportunity that makes me feel uncomfortable. And when Anthony and I were, setting our goals, that's kind of like our MO, is you got to set a goal that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, right? It's got to push your boundaries a little bit. And maybe that's just me, but, like, it just wanted to push my boundaries around this, because what I was doing up until that point wasn't yielding the results I wanted. Right. So I'm like, well, I got to start trying everything that I can to be able to say that at least I tried, right? At least I put the effort in, at least I experienced it. And then if it doesn't work for me, I'll find something else. But I think we get caught in this trap of, I go seek help, it doesn't work, or it's not what I thought it was going to be. And then I'm like, none of this stuff works, right? So we kind of throw everything out instead of saying that this specific thing didn't resonate with me, but I still need to find, search for something that does, right? Because I need to find something to manage the stress in my life. And this opportunity came where I was able to spend, I think, 4 or 5 days at a retreat with other veterans, just learning different breath-based breathing techniques that were designed to manage stress. And the nice thing about these strategies is once you learn them, no one can take them away from you, right? So it's something that then I was trained in, that I could use on a regular basis to be able to say, hey, I'm stressed out right now, so I'm going to use some of these breathing techniques just to be able to like shave the edges off the emotions that I'm feeling, right? I jokingly say it takes you from a 7 to a 4, right? It's not going to fix the issue, right? The deeper issue, but it is going to help you move through the challenge that you're facing in that moment, right? By making it a little less intense for you.
You got anything to add, Rob?
No, I mean, that was the most interesting part of the video for me on your, like, I don't want to call you a character because, like, you're a real human.
Yeah.
But it was just, for me, like, at a certain point, like, I could tell that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like you were going through the motions. You were there to finish. That was your job. You were there to finish. And Anthony was kind of like telling us how he felt every single day.
Right.
And I felt like it was causing you stress. And then you get back, you go to this class, and all of a sudden it's like a light switch happened. Like
Yeah.
it ignited a fire in you, and like it ignited you to the point where I was like, we need to get him on the podcast like next week. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why like Austin started reaching out to you. That's why I tagged you, like, dude. And another thing, like, I want to shout out your documentary. Austin, remind me the name. I'm an idiot right now. I can't believe
Almost
I
Sunrise.
Almost Sunrise.
Almost Sunrise. Thank you. I cried probably like 4 or 5 times during it, just because like I felt like I knew your pain.
Yeah, it hits home.
Yeah, it hit home like on a personal level, to a level that I can't explain. And I was like, we need to get Tom on next week. Do whatever you can to reach out to him and get him on next week. Like, I think this will be good. So my thing for you was like watching that switch into like who you are post the end of the documentary, and then like going and finding you on social media, because Anthony didn't give us any of your contact stuff. Like, I just went and found you,
Right.
and I was like, holy shit, like he went all in on the thing that changed him.
Yeah.
So like, catch us up if you want on like what that looked like after the documentary.
So I took like I was saying, it was like a 5-day retreat. And then at the end of this retreat, they basically said, now you have a home practice. So there's, a breathing sequence that you do, and then you sit for 10, 20-minute meditation after you do these breathing exercises, right? So I had such a shift during the course. And I think, again, what it comes down to is like, what is bringing you rest in your life, right? You really have to do kind of a, I don't want to be cheesy and say a layout, right? But you really have to assess, right, what's going on in your life. where you're putting your energy, what are you putting your energy into, and is that bringing me rest? Is it bringing me peace, right? Is it bringing me any kind of solace or comfort or, whatever it is? And you have to examine all that stuff, right? So up until that point, I didn't have anything that was bringing me rest. I didn't have anything that was giving me a sense of contentment or peace or being centered in myself, right? So that's the way I look at meditation, breath work, all these things. I look at them from a very practical standpoint, right? So if I can incorporate 10, 15 minutes of breathing exercises first thing in the day, and I know that that's going to center me, and I know it's going to put me in a position to where I am clear and I'm able to take on the challenges of the day from a clear and centered place, like that's an advantage that I need to take, every morning. And the what I ended up doing was having this, kind of profound shift of like, wow, this actually is helps me, right? I found something that actually helps me. So I ended up volunteering for this organization. Anthony might have talked about them a little bit, but they're called Project Welcome Home Troops. So they have I think it's a 3-day, they do online stuff now, but it's a 3-day course where they'll teach you these breath-based meditation techniques. And then at the end, you have your home practice. And I just started practicing every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on if I was having a bad day or not. Right. So I ended up doing that. I think 2014, I stopped drinking. So I was just like, all right, like I really need to get like what's going on. I need to get a handle on myself essentially and really understand what is going on and what is not serving me anymore, right? What's not helping me, what's not bringing me rest. And this was the beginning of that process. But I also started volunteering for the organization, organizing workshops, and sharing it with other veterans that were open to trying something new, right? And then I ended up working for the organization that did this. So I was traveling around the country organizing workshops for veterans and their families and just seeing the transformation and the shift that happens over 3 days just from learning these breathing strategies and techniques and then incorporating them into your life, right, is it's up to you. All these things that you can learn, the Wim Hof's a big one, right? And it's like, it's great, like if you experience them, but like if you incorporate them into your life, you will see the benefits that they have, right? It's not just like a one-off thing where I went to this event and then did some breathing techniques and yeah, it was great. I really just said, I'm going to find all the things that I can that are supportive of me, right, and that uplift me, and that bring me a sense of clarity and peace, and the things that I want, which is like I think ultimately we all just want to be content in our lives, right? We all want to be settled, kind of stress free as much as possible, right? Which is, you can't always be stress free all the time, right? But you can make that less so, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And then you started your own organization, correct?
Right. So because I've had such success with a lot of these strategies, I basically broke down into where did I have challenges going into this for the first time? Where did I have challenges learning how to meditate? No one really, guides you into that. And they're just kind of like, here's a technique, go ahead, go at it. And so it's like, no one told me that, I could sit like on a cushion or like I could have like back support, so I'm like grinding through all this and it's like unnecessary. A lot of it was unnecessary, come to find out. So what I really wanted to do was offer some strategies that brought rest to veterans and their families, but, the broader, population at large, and looking at the military population, veteran population, one of the most diverse populations in the country, right? We have people from all walks of life coming to join this organization that is the military. So if we can find practical, applicable stress management tools for that population, then that can be offered out to the broader population, because we have all the things right in this community, right? Whether it's post-traumatic stress, moral injury, addiction, domestic violence, suicide. All these problems exist within this small population that is the military. So if we can find really practical solutions to be able to address these things, I think we can find solutions to manage stress overall, for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I mean definitely. I mean, what would be your advice to somebody or anybody that thinks they're either above like breathing or like you said, like you were before the walk, you said you would never do it. Like,
Right.
what's your advice to somebody that's in the same situation?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you haven't experienced it for yourself, you can read about all the stuff you want to. You can
Mm-hmm.
become, a scholar, whatever you think. But if you haven't experienced it yourself, you don't really know how it's going to impact you, right? So you have to be in meditation. We call it a beginner's mind, right? Where you're just like you have to be going into things like you're starting them for the first time, regardless, right? So just having that mentality of I'm going to be open and receptive to this, even if I know a lot about the subject, or even if I've done a lot of research about it. Like I need to go in with an open and receptive mentality when I'm trying new things for the first time, right? So if you're going to not be open to it, just realize that you're closing yourself off to opportunities, right? So it's moving out of that space of I'm going to close myself off. I'm going to keep myself into a place where I'm comfortable, because that's what, generally what we all do is try to keep ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in comfort because, the opposite, as military veterans, we know what it's like to feel uncomfortable, and no one wants to feel uncomfortable, right? But if you know that doing research that this is a stress management strategy and that you can release past impressions safely, and that you can gain rest in the system, and that you can really benefit yourself from them, you have to be a little bit curious to say, there's something behind this that is could benefit me overall. If I want to have a better quality of life and be the best version of myself that I can be, right? That's not a place of stagnancy, right? That's a place of growth. It's a constant thing, right? So again, going back to the beginner's mind, you have to, really embrace that mentality of like, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to give my 100%, right? Because when we give our 100%, there is no regrets, right? If you give 60% and it doesn't work out, you're always like, I could have given a little more, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
have, regrets about not trying as hard as you could, right? So beginner's mindset, going in, be like, I'm going to give this my all, and I'm going to try to do what I'm instructed to do. And it's pretty clear cut, how they break it down in these courses, and they give you recommendations for a daily practice. And I just listened to those recommendations, and it's something that I've been doing now for since 2014. These meditation and breathing strategies is something that I have really embodied, and a lot of the so much so that I started teaching on my own, right? And that has really been kind of my mission since then, is how are we able to provide these practices in a practical way to veterans and their families, right? Because looking at it, I believe that I've come across some of the greatest people and some of the greatest leaders that I've ever experienced in the military, right? And if they're dealing with post-traumatic stress, if they're dealing with moral injury, they're sidelined, right? So they're not contributing
Mm-hmm.
to the society, right? They're not bringing those skills into our communities, right? Because they're dealing with stress. So it's, for me, it's like, we need everyone off the bench, right? We need veterans to find their purpose. We need veterans to be able to contribute their knowledge and wisdom into the communities where they live, because we have such a vast knowledge and understanding, not only of leadership, but of how to be of service, right? Which is like, we need that more than ever today, right?
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
Hey, Austin, would you bring up Tom's Instagram? And one thing I wanted to do was have like a way that any of our listeners, if they wanted to reach out,
Mm-hmm.
or they were interested in the program. I also just saw on your page that you're on a podcast yourself. It said like Ordinary Yogi podcast, episode 75. Is that a podcast that you do regularly, or was that a podcast that you joined?
Talking to you, Tom. Can you hear him?
I think I'm lagging over here a little bit, so I'm
Oh,
a
okay.
little.
Okay, no, you're good. So he was asking about did you just do a podcast with the Ordinary Yogi? I think he's lagging over there.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you, but it's a little choppy. It might be my internet, but
Okay. Let's bring up for now, Austin. Let's bring up his Instagram. That way we can point people to his page if they want to follow up with him, and we'll get into ATI after that.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything else he wants to promote.
What's the name of your organization, Tom? No, you're good. Okay, so yeah, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, while he's doing that, he'll get himself fixed. Bring up his page.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. We are going to present,
and it's at Tom_Voss.
Correct. I got it right here. Well, yeah. So while Tom's fixing that, if you guys are interested in anything, I mean, there he goes. You can follow him or check out his page, and then because he has his own organization, so
yeah. And I was looking at it, so like on his page, it looks like he's associated with a podcast, or he does it himself.
I think that's just one he's joined.
Okay. Yeah, and it looks like he was on one episode 75 of the Ordinary Yogi podcast. And then he also has like his page, which it looks like if you go, can you go to click on his bio? Go to his bio link.
Oh, there he is. Hold on. Are you back?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. There you go.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you. I had to switch over to my phone. I had my internet's wacky here.
Yeah, no, we're just bringing up your page, and then we were talking about where people might be able to go if they were interested in your meditations classes or anything.
Yeah, I can put it in the chat here. The website is ohai.earth, and there's a veterans discount, or you can just do drop-ins, or you can just reach out to me directly if it's something you just want to experience. And I wanted to offer both of you, if you guys want to experience a meditation session, a guided session, I'm happy to offer that to you as well.
Okay.
I'm very interested. The only thing that I've had issues with meditation, and I don't remember if I brought it up last week or on a different podcast, is sitting still for long periods of time.
Yeah, so I thought of that, right? Because I had those challenges as well. In this meditation practice, you just lie down, and you can get blankets and pillows and stuff like that, and get super comfortable. So do some like exercises, visualization stuff, some body awareness, and it puts you in meditative stuff to worry about that.
Okay. I mean, I'm 100% game. I'm very interested.
On the spot, but yeah. So no pressure either way. But if you want to, we can connect offline and and make that happen.
Okay, Austin, did you want to bring up his site?
I can bring it up.
I sent you the link.
Yeah, I know. I have it up right here.
Just do better.
I can't do that.
Better. Do better. Okay, cool. So this is Tom's website. It is www.O as in Oscar, J as in Juliet, A as in Alpha, I as in India, .earth.
Yeah.
What's that acronym stand for?
It's actually the place of the name of the town that I live in is Ojai, California. Right. So it's
that makes sense.
The inspiration. I did a lot of meditating here, spending time in nature, different things like that. So you can check out the website. There's many different options. Again, like I said, there's a veteran discount as well if you're interested. But really, it's just, I'm providing support for people that are interested in incorporating a meditation practice into their life, right? Because it was such a struggle for me to do it on my own, and I had no one saying that like, hey, you could like come to this class a couple times a week, and we can do it together, and we can work at it together, right? So I was just doing it on my own, sitting cross-legged, and like my having your lower back screaming, your legs hurting, all those different things, right? So come to find out that's not totally necessary to do, right? So providing a place where people can come virtually, check in a couple days a week, and learn some strategies and breathing techniques, stuff like that, to be able to help manage stress and bring rest to the system.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and I 100% will talk to you maybe either in DMs later or something, because
Yeah.
I'd be interested in trying a class and seeing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's all you can do, right? With any of these different healing modalities and different things out there, you just have to find something that resonates with you. There's so many different meditation branches and strategies and different things out there. You just have to find something that resonates with you, find a teacher that resonates with you, and then you're kind of off and running, right? And it comes down to practice and really, holding yourself accountable for doing that, which is really important, right? Especially when it comes to healing. You have to be able to show up for yourself regularly, which is a challenging thing to do coming from the military, where we've had everything done for us, right? Whether it's, food and clothing, go here at this time, all those different things, right? And now we have to transition into a position of like, I have to be able to stand alone and manage my life, right? And manage all the things that are coming at me, right? Regardless of what's going on in my life, I still have to be able to manage that. And meditation, I really look at it is as it's a practice of self-respect, right? Because you're starting the morning, you're like, I'm going to go into a quiet place in the morning. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to check in with myself and make sure that I'm centered, right? And if I'm not centered, I have strategies, breathing techniques, exercises that I can do to make sure that I am. And then I'm bringing my A game into the day right from the beginning, so that I can take on those challenges, and so they don't impact me as much as they would have if I'm coming in from a place of confusion and stress, essentially, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Is there anything else you would like to plug before we get into our answer the internet questions?
Which is pretty much the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Just check out Oh Higher Earth. You have some time. There's some options there. There's a nice little 5-minute video that I kind of talk about why, kind of my why, about why I'm doing it. But yeah, if anyone is interested, they can always reach out to me, send me a message or an email, either through Instagram or the website. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have, around deployment or healing or meditation or any of those things. I'm pretty open and receptive to those things.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely put it in the description so you
Cool.
can check that out.
Yeah. All right. Well, Austin, you want to take us into ATI and kind of explain what that is?
Well, I mean, we don't,
for our new
not bad.
listeners.
It's not too bad today, so.
Okay, so moms and dads can listen to this. We usually tell people at this point, like, if you're a parent or sensitive, don't stop the podcast at this point, because
we've had some pretty messed up questions on here.
Yeah.
Well,
They're a bunch of would you rather, but we toned it down because we knew what you're coming with, and
we put some light-hearted questions.
Yeah. All right.
What questions did Anthony get? I'm interested to hear.
I mean, we could go back and look at them.
We have the same one. We can ask you the same ones.
I mean, they're pretty fucked up. Like, let's see.
Well, they're not too bad.
Actually, his weren't that bad either.
But I mean, they were more fucked up than yours.
So how about we do your ones that we picked for you, because we only picked 3, and we'll grab like maybe 2 or 3 really fucked up ones from Anthony's, and you can do them as well and see what your answers were.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll get into it. First one. Would you rather lose the ability to speak or the ability to hear for the rest of your life?
Speak for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've said it. I think I've
How are you gonna guide meditation without speaking?
Type.
really, I mean, really, it's like more about just sitting and being, right?
Yeah.
So like I'd definitely give up speech for sure, right? Because you still know what's going on around you, right? But yet you can still communicate with people, right? Just give me a chalkboard or something, right?
Right.
But I don't have to engage in talking with people, right? Which is sometimes the most challenging that we run into, right, with other people. So yeah, for sure, I think that would be my go-to.
Okay, yeah. And you don't have to listen. You just have to listen to him, not talk to him.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Austin?
See, that's hard because I mean, if I do hear, then I don't have to listen to you anymore, Rob. So I think I'm gonna go hearing.
Okay. Good.
So
Good.
here's the question that comes then: is how do you know what you're saying if you can't hear?
Yeah.
No, see, I guess that makes sense because even if you're deaf, you don't have normal speech.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's
See,
yeah, that's hard.
I enjoy talking.
I know
However,
you
and I love having a podcast, but I think I would go with my ability to speak because I would figure out a way around it. And as Tom was answering, I was thinking like, oh shit, but I don't hear well already. I need hearing
right? Yeah,
aids.
I'm already half deaf anyways.
However, the shit that really matters to me, I watch with subtitles. So if I can hear it and see it because I'm not losing my eyesight, fuck it. Like,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
love
no,
Amanda, but
I think
I won't have subtitles for her. I won't understand everything she's saying. And
maybe that'll be a good thing though.
maybe not.
No, I think that's a good option though. I think speaking is.
Yeah, speaking's out. I'm gonna just type everything.
Overrated.
All right.
Right.
Next one, you got it, Austin. Go.
Okay. Would you rather lose your ability to lie or believe everything you're told?
I think I would like to lose the ability to lie because I think that would be so freeing, in the sense that you're just speaking truth, right? And then you just let
Just
people
bluntly to
deal with it.
everybody.
Well, yeah,
Liar, like
You're gonna
Jim Carrey.
You're gonna make a lot of people mad.
yeah. I mean, you would probably be pretty isolated. So I wouldn't be talking,
Mhm.
and now I can't. Now I can't tell a lie. No
Yeah,
one
if you
would want
can't
to
talk, you can't lie.
right.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's 100% true. Yeah. I'm going off the fact I can't speak and I just can't lie because I can't speak. So
Yeah, because if you believe everything you're told, then
that's
anybody can tell you anything, and you have
That's
to
gonna be
believe it.
that's gonna be a rough life.
Yeah.
People just
Yeah.
you're gonna be
Especially nowadays.
Okay, and unanimous. We are all going with we would not like to lie. Last of your questions, and then we'll cherry pick a couple from Anthony's. If you want to start researching that, Austin, I'm gonna read this last one.
Yeah, no,
Would you rather be able to restart your day at any point or be able to just skip to the next day?
I have to think about that one. Think I think I would like the reset, right? Because I think skipping the day, right? It's like you can kind of do that already. Like it's called being hungover, right? So
Yeah,
it's like I've done enough of
checking
that.
out. Yeah.
Day skip that I think I can say that I like the other for sure.
Okay, you just want to restart your day?
What about you, Austin?
Sure. So I think I'm just gonna restart the day because you never know what's gonna happen to that day. And say you skip that day and you wake and you end up somewhere that you have no idea where you're at, like and how you got there because you skipped that day.
Could have ended on a really good note, and you just said nope, not gonna deal with it.
I mean, it could have. You never know what's gonna happen that day.
It's true.
So I think I'm gonna restart.
So I'm 100% going to restart, but I'm doing it for malicious reasons. The reasons are this, and they're simple. I am going to bet the most ridiculous bet on something that I know that is going to make me millions of dollars, and just like make sure that it's like a sporting event. You know what I mean? And then
You could
I'm gonna know.
bet on it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
And if it
gonna
didn't work out, reset.
And I don't think that I can change that sporting event. So,
But the thing
happen.
is, do you restart your day with the knowledge from that day, or do you lose all your knowledge when you reset that day?
I think you restart with the knowledge in my scenario because I want
full,
to win
full
the
reset.
money.
Because my thought was like, if you restart the day, you lose all the knowledge of what happened that day.
Like a light.
Not in my world.
Like
No,
Men in Black.
Not in Rob's world.
No, not in my world. I get to restart it, and I know what
started at
happened.
11:59. He's gonna restart it.
Yep, right before like there every single year something happens in like the Super Bowl that you can take like random bets or whatever. And by the way, just so everyone knows, like I'm not like a freaking crazy gambler, but
Rob's betting on the Rob already bet on the Super Bowl.
No, I haven't, and I never have. But like perfect example, there was one year that the beginning play of a Super Bowl was a safety. And like someone put like $5 on it, and the odds of that happening had literally never happened before. And then it happened. And the dude won like $2 million on like a $5 or $10 bet. So I would do something like super obscure. And
I'm gonna bet $100 million that a safety starts, and they'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, but yeah. So I would restart my day. All right.
Okay.
Enough of that. What do you got for a fucked up one?
Okay. Would you rather accidentally send a dick picture to your mom or your wife's best friend?
Well, I guess it would be significant other's best friend.
Okay. Well, probably my mom, I guess, because she's already, she raised me. So I'd just be like, sorry. Yeah.
Wrong person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or that, or like, destroy the relationships or whatever. I mean,
right. Yeah. It's like, oh, sorry, I sent that to your best friend.
Yeah, no, that would be.
Yeah. And you can't say it's an accident. The dick pic, you can't say it's an accident. So.
Yeah, and then your friend's gonna be like, "Why the fuck are you sending pictures to my wife?"
Yeah. Sounds like a terrible situation to be in, right? When said you're like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah. Oh, terrible.
Yeah. I'm gonna go, and I'm pretty sure I answered this last week this way. I'm going with send it to my mom. It's just
same.
a lot easier to explain. No, Austin, you can't do that. Your mom's no longer with us, so like you're gonna have to send it to my mom, and I'm gonna kill you.
It's a whole different thing.
That'll be your problem, Rob.
All right. Let's see.
The first one.
Yeah, I was gonna do that one. Would you rather be naked at work for an hour, or be dropped off 2 miles from your house, naked, and you have to try to get home?
I think you do that at work.
Depending on where.
A good way to get out.
It depends on where you work,
Yeah, that's true. No, like you show up on camera teaching naked. Like you go to meditate and like you're naked.
They make naked yoga. I mean, it's a thing.
Some like specialize in that, so I don't think it'd be too far. I would say probably work, right? Because it's like how many people are you going to see on that walk? Probably quite a few. Soon.
Yeah, and then you could also get arrested
it's
for
not
public indecency.
Yeah. Both depending on how understanding your coworkers are, I guess.
Okay, so you're going with nude at work?
Yep, going with nude at work.
I am sneaking my way back to the Grand Canyon. I can't afford to lose my job. I show up naked there for even 5 minutes.
Right.
I have to
Everybody's
go-
gonna know.
Everyone's gonna know. Like, I'm better off. Like, I'll just like hike my way down into the canyon, hide, wait till nighttime, come back up. Yeah. So I'm walking home. How about you, Austin?
I mean, I'm just gonna pick the 2 miles because I work from home, so it's like a normal occurrence for me.
Right.
Wait, you're gonna do naked at home, or you're just gonna walk?
I do naked from home like daily, so it's not no different. So I'm gonna go 2 miles.
Okay, you're gonna change up. You're gonna live a little. You're gonna take a risk. Yeah.
So
Okay. Those were a couple of his fucked up ones. I think the other one was like, would you rather lose your teeth or lose your dick? Was one of them that was fucked up.
Well, yeah.
Since you
it's
asked,
a choice. I mean, you can always get dentures, right?
I mean, you can.
this is true. This is very true.
Yeah, you got to eat too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like, how often are you really using it? You know,
There's
Gotta
things
make
you
a
can
choice.
gum. Yeah, no, I'm team dick. I'm keeping my dick and losing the teeth. I'm a hockey player that somehow has kept his teeth this long.
Right. I mean, eventually they're going to be coming out, and as we get older, anyway. So might as well yank them now.
Exactly.
Oh, well, there
Yep.
you go.
Yank him, keep the dick. All right, we're all team dick.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to cover, Rob?
No, I feel like this was a great episode, Tom. If you don't mind, stick around when we close out because we do like a little group
Sure.
picture.
We're
at
gonna
the
have
end.
to have you get naked so we can get a photo.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tom, is there anything else you want to plug? Because otherwise, I'm going to close this out. We just hit 2 hours.
No, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share my experience with both. And
Absolutely.
support in the future.
Cool. Absolutely. Austin, it's always a pleasure seeing you occasionally. Other
Go
than that,
fuck yourself.
Yeah. No, but on the real, we appreciate everyone who's checked out this episode. Definitely go check out the documentary. Go check out Tom's page. Also, we didn't mention it, but we'll include a link for it. Tom has a book out that his sister wrote. Make sure you check that out if you're in the...
What's the name of the book, Tom?
The name is Where War Ends, and it's a memoir I wrote with my sister, and it's like the documentary is kind of a flyover, and this kind of goes into kind of the lessons that I learned, so it's more of a deep dive, and
I found it.
years after I finished the trek, so kind of like the takeaways that I came to. It's a good experience for people that either have loved ones that have served, because I'm really kind of open and honest about my experiences with being in war and coming home and all that kind of stuff. So it helps build some understanding around those topics.
Okay.
Awesome. Oh, quick question before I wrap it up. Do you guys do an audiobook version, or is it just hardcover, or just a book?
Yeah, there's audiobook version available as well. Yeah, War Ends. It's gonna be...
Okay, good. Because if I decide
only thing
to
Rob
read
listens
it,
to.
I will listen to it before I will physically read it. All right, cool. Thank you very much, Tom. Stick around for a second. Thank you, all of our Fight Like Hell listeners. We love you guys, and peace.